Our keynote speaker for today's Protect Kids rally will be Karen England. Karen is the Executive Director of Capital Resources Institute in California and has traveled all that way to be here with us today. Karen has firsthand experience with comprehensive sex education and what it actually looks like once it becomes law. California has already passed a law very similar to Minnesota's House File 1414. We know what the words comprehensive, quote unquote, age appropriate, quote unquote, and medically accurate really mean in CSE classrooms. We're all going to want to pay close attention to all that Karen has to share with us today. She's also sounded the alarm about CSE for social change. Please join me in offering a warm Minnesota welcome to Karen England.
Thank you so much, and I am so impressed with this crowd. I travel the nation doing comprehensive sex ed, and this is a huge crowd on a Sunday afternoon, so thank you. That was my phone. Can you all hold your signs up? I want to take a picture. That wasn't very graceful, but go ahead. Awesome. Okay, as they mentioned, I'm from California, so let me apologize right away. What happens in California doesn't stay in California, and that is true with comprehensive sex education. If there was ever a time, a call to arms, now is the time. Back in 2015, we passed comprehensive sex education in the state of California, and if you pay attention to the news, you're starting to see what is happening as they implement it, because the local school districts are forced to implement it. Parents are up in arms, but it's the law, and that's what they want to do here in Minnesota. Organizations like Planned Parenthood, other promoters of sex, have been busy writing curriculum, busy writing the standards that aren't real, they're just made up standards from the people who love to teach kids about sex. And they are pushing this on our kids. One of the speakers earlier mentioned it's probably going on in your district. You're going to hear a call to action, but it is going on in school districts, even without the law being passed, because you have activists who are going to the school districts enforcing it. This is happening in Nevada, this is happening in Virginia. In California, you heard the story about the little boy who came out as a girl in the kindergarten class after they read the book I Am Jazz. This is happening around the nation, and Minnesota is not exempt. Sex education has become something way different than what we had when we were growing up. It's about teaching kids, and this is because of Planned Parenthood, about their sexual rights and how they have sexual rights and need to exercise them. Now, I don't know about you, but our 4 kids didn't have a lot of sexual rights or other rights under the age of 18 in our home. And we raised them according to our values, and we certainly didn't expect the school or think the school was going to undermine everything we were teaching our kids. But they are. And that's why stopping this bill, and when it returns again, is so important. You need to stay engaged in this battle, because I guarantee you, Planned Parenthood is going to stay engaged. So as I mentioned, school districts around the nation, they're acquiring curriculum. They're, some of them are writing it, but one thing I've noticed when they're writing the curriculum, it's just a reprint of the curriculum that's out there. So there's nothing new. I've gone through every piece of curriculum that's approved by the state of California, read them all, San Francisco to San Diego, and I have to tell you, it's all just a rewrite. And I have no doubt that Minnesota's model curriculum will be a rewrite of everything I'm about to read to you today. So, if you have kids, cover their ears, because here we go. I'm going to do some reading. So, in my opinion, sexual health education has become nothing more than a way for Planned Parenthood, the sexual rights activists, to promote exploration of various sexual activities. And that includes, and you're going to hear this a lot as I read from K through 12 curriculum, including oral and anal sex. I'll say it again. Yes, ooh. So both the content and the method of teaching is designed to desensitize our kids, lower their inhibitions, and teach them about sexual acts while violating their innocence, their modesty, and their privacy. It's nothing short of grooming. Planned Parenthood is the nation's largest provider of sex education with 1.5 million people a year. Yes, Big Boo is, but in Minnesota, they're so proud of it. It's all over their website. I'm reading directly from Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood is the largest provider of comprehensive sex education in Minnesota. What is wrong with that picture that they are the #1 provider of sex education? Something is already wrong. Going on, this is directly from Planned Parenthood, and I want to say, we had some protesters earlier. I am happy to stay after and have you refute anything that I am saying, because it is the truth, and it's the truth they don't want you to know. But I'm happy to stay if the protesters want to stay and have a conversation about the truth about this, and I encourage them to stay and point out to me anything that hasn't been accurate that has been set up here today. So anyway, continuing on with what Planned Parenthood themselves say in Minnesota, Planned Parenthood reaches nearly 50,000 Minnesotans across the lifespan. This is the good part, including young people in elementary, middle, and high school. Why are they the largest provider of sex ed in elementary school? I think they should be renamed Planned Profits. Comprehensive sex ed has become nothing but a way to acquire younger and newer customers for Planned Parenthood. I'm going to read, and again, a lot of what I'm reading is because people, including the media, don't believe it. And they don't believe us when we're out there telling the public what's going on. So I wanted to read directly from Planned Parenthood. Here we go. Queering Sex Ed is a new project at Planned Parenthood Toronto, developing a sex ed resource with and for LGBTQ youth. The information and resources below have been created by the Queering Sex Education Youth Advisory Committee. And then they go on to ask, why queering sex ed? Again, quoting directly from Planned Parenthood. You need to believe them when they're telling you what they want to do with your children. They go on to say, we recognize the need for an alternative sex education resource. It's not okay that gaps are being left in our sexual experiences and being ignored. There's so much opportunity in the queer world that includes queer sex. Penis and vagina is one kind of sex, but it's not the only kind of sex. I apologize for my words. Even the experts, and Planned Parenthood goes on to say this, even the experts don't all agree on the definition of what sexual activity is. They go on to say different people consider many different activities to be sex, but pretty much all definitions of sex include sexual intercourse, which means vaginal sex, which refers to oral sex. I think God's turning off the microphone. Oral sex, which is when one person puts their mouth in another person's genitals. If this offends you that I'm saying this, it should offend you. It should. I want to teach this all the way down to elementary school. It goes on. How many of you are familiar with SIECUS? SIECUS is the Sexuality Information Education Council of the United States. They're the BFF of Planned Parenthood. They go on and they say what those of us that have been in the battle for a lot of years, have been trying to alert the public about what comprehensive sex ed is about. But this last year, Planned Parenthood and SIECUS ripped the mask off what they've been doing, and they went public with what their plans are. This is directly from SIECUS. SIECUS asserts that sexuality is a fundamental part of being human, one worthy of dignity and respect. We advocate for the rights of all people to accurate information, comprehensive sexuality education, and the full spectrum of sexual and reproductive health services. SIECUS works to create a world that ensures social justice inclusive of sexual and reproductive rights. Our schools aren't supposed to be instruments of social justice. Students' health is absolutely not SIECUS or Planned Parenthood's priority. Social change is their true goal, and that's what this bill is about. SIECUS goes on to say that while sex education is a necessary sexual health tool, it can and should be so much more than that. With sex education, we have a golden opportunity to create a cultural shift tackling misinformation, shame, and stigma that create the basis for many of today's sexual and reproductive health rights and issues. And then they go on to say, like reproductive justice, dismantling white supremacy. They see sexualizing our kids and indoctrinating them as their golden opportunity. That is offensive, and I say shame on you. And to any legislator, policymaker, school board member that is supporting this, I say shame on you. Sex education is no longer a 1 or 2 hour class about body changes, nutrition, health, exercise. It's about dismantling our values. It's about promoting sex, how to have sex. I said it before, what happens in California doesn't stay in California, and Minnesota schools are never going to be the same if this bill passes or a new one, and it will come up again, moves forward. And now I'm quoting directly from the Minnesota bill. It says you have to have a model program, including written materials, curriculum resources, and training for instructors. Who do you think does the training for instructors? Planned Parenthood. Shame on you. So model programs from other states, I'm going to talk a little bit about so that you know what's going on. I'm going to give you and read some excerpts that are specifically from the most popular nationwide curriculums. I'm going to start with kindergarten. They're taking directly from what the schools are teaching. Kindergarten, this is your body. You have a right to know what different body parts are called. And then they go in to tell the kids to say the word out loud. Oh, let's all say penis, penis. Again, desensitize, grooming. Explain to them that most people have a vulva or a penis, but some people's bodies can be different. Your body is exactly what's right for you. It's the idea that you choose your gender. Third grade, discuss the rainbow flag and what it represents, that it's the pride of gay and lesbian people. Our third graders, okay, I don't know about your kids, but they're usually kind of picking their nose, punching each other. I mean, they're not really focused on the rainbow gay pride flag, nor should they be. More curriculum, 5th grade. Define sexual orientation and its most common categories. And then it goes on to tell the 5th graders, sometimes we will have these feelings for people who are our same gender. This is called being gay. Some gay women call themselves lesbians, and sometimes we might have feelings for all genders. This is called being bisexual. How many of you, when you were in elementary school, wanted to marry your teacher, marry your mom or dad, your best friend who happened to be the same gender? That is normal development. We are now going to be telling our kids that loving their best friend means they're gay. That is not what it means. It's natural development. So I'm going to go on and talk about a little bit more about the curriculum, and you guys have heard about the book that Planned Parenthood talks about. It's perfectly normal. And they're promoting it. Shame on you. This is for 10 years of age and older. The pictures in here are pornographic. And I was speaking with one of your lawmakers, and here's one of the things that people don't know. Most of these pictures, if I was to leave it in a boardroom or a work environment and someone was to look at it, it'd be considered sexual harassment. If this was left in some sort of lunchroom where you work, the pictures would be considered sexual harassment. But the left is always ahead of us. And they have taken, and Minnesota is one of the states where they've taken exemptions for obscenity laws. And so although we have obscenity laws, California and Nevada are exempt as well, they're one of the 44, your public schools are exempt from obscenity laws, and that's how a lot of this stuff is getting in there with the graphic pictures. Shame on you if you support this. The curriculum that they are pushing, it seeks to erase everything our children have been taught at home about gender. It encourages teachers to stop referring to boys or girls and make reference to them as they, or as one of the curriculums starts in 6th grade, don't call them she, call them a person, women, a person with a vulva. When did the feminists, which I'm a huge Phyllis Schlafly fan, Eagle Forum, the ultimate feminist she was, when did we want to start being referred to as our body parts? So are we supposed to, these are the instructions from the curriculum. Please line up if you have a vulva here, and those of you that have a penis, line up here. That is the curriculum's instruction to the 6th grade teacher. I'm reading directly from it. They also put down, a lot of people say, well, you know, people believe different things, but the curriculum goes further and it inserts digs at those of us that have the belief that you're born male or female, and it creates gender confusion. I'm going to quote again directly from, and this happens to be Advocates for Youth, 6th grade teacher script. Typically when a baby is born, they are identified as a boy or a girl based on their genitalia, penis or vulva. Unfortunately, that moment will probably determine how the people in that baby's life will interact with that child. Again, stigmatizes those of us that believe you're born male or female. They talk about your being assigned at birth. The doctor didn't just assign a gender at birth. He looked at your biology and your body parts and determined you're a boy or a girl. He didn't just say, oh, I've had a lot of girls today, the next 2 are going to be boys. It is determined by biology. Does that sound medically accurate, that it's your feelings that determine your gender? Not at all. So we've talked about it's perfectly normal, and I've already read a lot of the obscene stuff, so I'm not going to read from that book. But now I'm going to go on to middle school. This is 7th and 8th graders. So these are 11, 12, 13, 14-year-olds. This is, again, from a different curriculum. I'm covering several different curriculums. What is sex? Introduce today's session to the class by telling students they're going to discuss what oral, anal, and vaginal sex is. How do you protect yourself? With a condom or dental dam every time you have vaginal, anal, or oral sex. Applying a lubricant to the outside of the condom also makes vaginal and anal sex more comfortable. We talk about medically accurate. There is no FDA-approved condom for anal sex. And the reason there isn't is because it's not safe. And who do you think are going to be the recipients of this new idea of having anal sex? It's going to be our daughters. It's going to be our daughters that are going to be pressured into this new phenomenon called anal sex that they're promoting in all the curriculum. This is really nothing more than pornography that's wrapped up in a bow and called sex education. And they can talk about dental dams and they can talk about condoms all they want, but there is no condom for the heart, minds, and soul of our kids. Once they are exposed to this offensive visual information, we cannot get it back. It repeats over and over in their heads. And I have to say, my husband often says, this is nothing more than giving a kid, especially a boy, a 357 and saying, hey, don't shoot it, but here it is. That's what we're doing with this curriculum and with comprehensive sex ed. So parents, please don't be deceived into thinking that it's not happening in Minnesota or not coming here. And you're going to hear some action items that will tell you what you can do and where you're going to go from here. And I've committed, for whatever reason I feel called to sex education. I didn't know it was a calling, but it's something I feel very called to. And I've committed, and I've let the board know, I will do whatever I need to help this be stopped in Minnesota. I will come back and work with legislators. I will testify. I will work with their board. I am committed to making sure we stop this now and then we push it out of the school districts that have chosen to do this. Honestly, thank you. I don't do it for the applause. It's the right thing. And I do have to say I am impressed with the legislators that showed up, because often they don't want to talk about any social issue and they don't want to talk about controversial stuff because they don't want to be called names. This is a winning issue. Our kids, and introducing them to grooming and sexually explicit material as young as kindergarten, is a winning issue. It's not a matter of right versus left, it's right versus wrong. And we need to come alongside them and stand with them as they fight on this. So I want to encourage you to not let Planned Parenthood use your child as a golden opportunity. That's not what our children are. Don't let them strip away our kids' innocence and use them for cultural change with our tax dollars. There is no lobbyist for families. We're it. The moms and dads are who need to advocate for our kids, whether it's before the school board, the legislature. We aren't a big union. We're moms and dads who are busy going to church, running to soccer, doing everything that families do. So at this point, they're going to bring up someone who's going to give you some action items. But I love William Wilberforce. Anyone familiar with William Wilberforce? Okay, I'm a big Wilberforce fan. So I'm going to lead with a quote, and I tend to do this if you watch some of my videos online, but I think it's powerful and worth saying. He says, "You may choose to look the other way, but you can never say again that you did not know." So thank you, and get out there and get active.
Thank you, Karen. Wow, that was such a fabulous heads up. We're so grateful you came all this way. So as you've heard today, the ideology and agenda driving comprehensive sex education is a threat to the well-being of children. The Minnesota Department of Education assures parents that its curriculum is developmentally appropriate and medically accurate, quote unquote. Really? According to whose standards? Planned Parenthood? As we know, the opposition has been implementing their sexual revolution agenda for decades. Friends, we are the resistance to their revolution. The grassroots are ablaze through the great state of Minnesota. Many want to do something to counter the left's radical ideology and agenda, and for which we are very, very grateful. You care about protecting the innocence of kids and showed up today. Thank you. You care about the culture in which children are growing up and showed up today, so thank you. You've gone door to door and have sounded the alarms with all those within your sphere of influence, and for that we're grateful as well. But we're just beginning, and we have so much work to do. Now it's time to tell legislators, especially our senators, that there's much more to do. And the Department of Education, that you want your children to learn the 3 R's, not the ideology that exposes children to sexual liberation, deviance, and gender confusion. And to let them know that you do not want your hard-earned tax dollars going to pay for programs, policies, and comprehensive sex education curricula that blatantly contradict and undermine your family's values and beliefs. On behalf of the Minnesota Child Protection League, we thank you for your interest in and dedication to protecting kids. We greatly appreciate your support and look forward in working together in the months and years ahead to stop a CSE mandate in schools dead in its tracks.